And so for me, first getting back into shooting for the first time in a long time, that was something that I really had to learn, was to make sure you maintain pressure. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Thank you everybody that's been watching all the videos. We're going to start churning out a lot more coming up soon, but as you guys know, I'm Scott, or Cameron, whichever one you want to call me by. I'm actually out in Colorado working for the summer. I used to live out here, so I have a lot of friends that still live here, and I didn't really get to do much hunting before, and so last year I was able to get a goose hunt in. And so I run a construction business, so I kind of stay all over the place. And so this year I'll be kind of splitting my hunting season between South Carolina, Colorado, and then wherever we get to travel in the meantime. So if you watched the scouting video, you saw that this kind of elk hunting trip was just thrown together last minute. And so I wanted to talk about the gear that I took. Granted, I like an avid outdoorsman anyway, so I have a lot of hiking gear, backpacking gear, stuff like that. I used to shoot a bow a lot when I was younger. I got into it when I was probably 12 or 13, something like that. I used to shoot a Hoyt, and then I transitioned over into bow fishing, and then since then I haven't really shot one. So when this trip kind of came about, it was really, like I said, last minute ordeal. And so after I went scouting, I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to pull a tag. And because I own a business here, I was able to get a resident license, get a driver's license, and then get a resident license here. So that worked out in my favor. But I want to talk to you about the gear that I took. So since I didn't really get to kind of shoot everything kind of in order, the hunt video is going to go up after this one, but I want to walk through the gear. So I'll start with the bow. So I was able to pick this up at Shield, which is our Midwestern outdoor store. This is a Matthews Monster Chiller. 60 to 70 pound draw, and it actually had the mods with it to adjust the draw length, because these older Matthews solo cams, you have to change the cams, which they might be the same on all Matthews now. But I was able to buy this like ready to hunt package pretty much. Got this from a buddy, the stabilizer. I picked up the wrist strap, but it came with a quiver and a sight, and then I obviously had to buy the arrows, and then bought the bow sling. So if you guys have never bow hunted before, definitely never bow hunted in the Midwest, then the hunting that we do out here is completely different than what you're used to on the East Coast. There is no sit still hunting where you really just kind of sit in a stand and wait. It's all spot and stalk. So, you know, for rifle season, you would get up on a high ridge, you know, use a big spotting scope, try to find a herd and make your way down there. Whereas with archery hunting, it's the same principle, but you have to do it within close range. So you really need to shoot and be able to shoot at least 60 yards. That's about the limit. You probably, I mean, you may be able to luck up and get some that are in closer. And then if you're new to archery, I wouldn't advise shooting further than 60. So this bow actually came with an HHA, kingpin, one pin, whatever you want to call it. And so on the back here, it has a little range guide. So when you go to the range and sight it in, you can adjust the screw, slide it up to shoot whatever yardage, slide it back down. And basically what I did is I went out to the range, shot a series of arrows, got it zeroed in, and then adjusted it and set it to like 35 yards, which was kind of my average. And then as you'll see in the hunting video, some places are a little bit further, some places a little bit closer, but I was able to, you know, when you sit down and find an area that you think they might be coming to, use your rangefinder and try to get a good roundabout range. So, you know, if I knew that I had 25 this way and 40 that way, I kind of set it at the 30 range, and that gives me a mental note to like a little bit high for here, a little bit low for there. The bow sling is for carrying it in and out, obviously. Once you leave camp, you will most likely take a pack, because you have to pack out your animals when you hunt them out here in the Midwest. So you field dress them and then carry them out. But take the sling with you on the hike, get to where you're going, set it up, This is just the field tip that I took because there were a lot of grouse out there. Get her set up, and then you wait. This also had a fall away rest on it, which I really liked. I don't like this quiver, the way that it's set up. It only holds 4 arrows, and it's just this weird kind of setup. I'm gonna actually change this one pin out, but I didn't want to change too many things leading up into archery season, so I'm just left this on there, but I'm gonna change this and then move the quiver to one of the styles that mounts on the sight. But I will say, if you're in the market for a bow, I was able to pick this up for 399 bucks. The arrows were about 50 for half a dozen, so I ended up with 2 sets of arrows, broadheads, and the wrist strap was like 10 bucks. The release was 70. This is a B3 Archery release, and so pretty much put this on first thing in the morning on the way out, leave it strapped up, and then you're pretty much ready to go. So all in all, I was in for 4, we'll say 5, 600 bucks just for the archery setup. The other stuff that I already had, so this was really the biggest jump that I had to make this hunt happen. But I will say, if you are interested in picking up a used bow like this, I want to show you super quick the issue that I do not like with this older solo cam. So they changed it. I don't remember if it was on the Chill X, which came after this one, or if it was the next generation. But so I'm gonna pull this back. Never dry fire a bow, but when you're at full draw, there's only a small amount of back wall before it wants to jump. And so for me, first getting back into shooting for the first time in a long time, that was something that I really had to learn, was to make sure you maintain pressure. These mods are set at 65% let off, which gives you more speed on the arrow, but it definitely makes it a little bit harder to hold back, especially if you are kind of just starting out. For me, it was just getting back into it. So I put a lot of time at the range. You know, I would go out every other day, almost every day, from the time we decided to scout up until we left for the hunt. And so I took the last couple of days off before I went, because I mean, I was literally sore just from shooting, 100 plus arrows a day. But I was able to get dialed in and pretty confident to where, I was hitting the mark at 40 yards, 50 yards, stuff like that. So I was willing to take the chance to go out into the field and make an ethical kill. So enough about the bow. I'm going to show you the rest of the gear that I took on the trip. This is just going to be my portion. What's not going to be pictured here is my buddy that I went with. He had a big wall tent. You'll see that in the hunt video. Big wall tent. I did take a cot, but it's out in the truck. I don't have it out. And obviously food and stuff to cook with. So because I was tagging along in this hunt, Anthony already had all that stuff, so that helped me out as far as this goes. But this is basically the setup you would need. And you can get by with what I have. If you were just to go out and backpack in, which was our initial plan, was just to set up a base camp and then hike in and camp closer to where we were kind of looking. But we were able to get to a spot that we were looking for, so we were able to camp close enough to where we were trying to hunt. So we ended up not having to backpack in, but basically that's what this gear list is set up for. So I'll give you a rundown of that really quick. So kind of got everything strung out here. I'm out in the garage because I was just unpacking from the trip. But here's just a general overview of what I took. I have this big marmot bag that I use for a lot of my big travel trips. It's a really great bag. I don't remember how many liters this one is, but it's really good for packing everything in. And then I basically just had that one bag and the bow. So because I was joining on to Anthony and we packed 3 people into Tacoma, it definitely was very tight on space for all the things that we were taking. So definitely space was a concern here. But so I take that big bag, like I said, makes it easier to compact everything into. And then this is pretty much everything else that I took, minus a few more clothes, which I've already unpacked. Camera gear, I'm now shooting on a Sony a6400 that I picked up a couple months ago. This is a Tamron 17-70 lens. I'm going to grab a 70-200 for waterfowl season, I believe, but this is basically what I'm doing some of the higher quality stuff on. Great for doing pictures. This 17-70 is a fantastic lens for doing a little bit of everything. You obviously miss the reach on shooting some of the longer range stuff, but as far as just an average lens getting around, It's better than the lens that comes with it, and this shoots at f2.8, so if you're not a camera nerd, that just means that it allows more light in, whereas a typical lens like the one that comes with it is like a 16 to 55, which is the zoom, but it shoots at f3.5 to 4.6 or something like that. And so every one f number that it goes up is half the amount of light. So this basically allows in 2 to 3 times more light than what the other lens would at full zoom, which is something that you'll notice if you ever shot on a camera that just has a kit lens that comes with it. When you zoom in, it starts getting darker and makes it harder to take those low light shots, which is what I went for when I got this. I'm still shooting a GoPro Hero 7, and then I have a head strap mount. We shoot some of our waterfowl stuff on these with a gun mount that clips underneath the bottom, and then I have one that clips under the stabilizer too, but for a lot of the moving around stuff, it just made it easier to use the head mount. Vortex binoculars, these are just the Crossfire series. People see the Vortex symbol and just think that they're super expensive, but I think these were like 149 bucks. Comes with the carry-in case for the shoulder case, which if you're out here hiking around and stuff, that's kind of the way to go, is to have it strapped on. And then I also have a Vortex rangefinder, which was about the same price. I have some video of using it, but basically once you have the batteries in it, you just hold it up to your eye, click it once, then hold it down, it gives you the range, and then it automatically turns off. So, fantastic little tool, especially for archery hunting and some of these longer ranges. This is the Impact 1000. Again, I think it was like 100 and something bucks. I bought it last year, the year before, and it's been great. This is just a Primos cow call. I actually bought an open reed calf call, so if you've ever taken apart a duck call and you obviously see the reed in there, well, that's the same way as some of the open reed calls work. But this one here is pretty easy just to do cow calls on. Really crappy cow call, but I don't want my dog freaking out. So this bag just kind of has my 10 essentials in it. I have an extra lighter that I keep on the outside, but there's a lighter in here. Toilet paper, hand warmers, you know, just random things, Gerber, 550 cord, Tylenol, first aid kit, a freeze pack. You know, there's just a good little bit of everything. I've carried this bag with me in this little dry bag for years on pretty much every hike that I've ever done. Here's a small flashlight. My headlamp is also in here. Or no, I took it out and put it in the house in my other bag. Because I'm a rock climber, I have all these little random Prussics and quick draws and things like that. So I took this just as a backup. You probably will need rope when you do field dress and elk, because as rigor mortis starts to set in, it starts to fold the body up, and so it really takes 2 people to field dress, so you're having to sit there and hold the legs apart while it's trying to close in on you while your buddy's trying to cut it apart. So always take some rope and some random carabiners. They don't have to be anything nice or climbing things like this, but good to have for that reason. Like I said, I just tossed some extra stuff in there. Bug spray, game bags. This is for packing out your quarters. And like I said, you have to field dress your animals out here in the West. So I have this set that was stuck in my bag still. They make all these different brands. These here are just vacuum sealed, so it just seemed like it was a little bit easier pack. Anthony actually had some that were even cheaper than this, and they were just in a little small bag. You can get them for as little as $2 a piece, $3 a piece, or something like that. These are antimicrobial. They hold in the meat and keep things from getting to it, and then you tie it up, put it in your pack, and then haul it back to camp. If you're doing the math in your head right now, an elk is, you know, 600 pounds of meat, so divide that up by 4 or 5 trips, and you're carrying 150 pounds a piece. So keep that in mind when you're planning on your elk hunt, that you definitely need to be in shape. Aside from that, I have an MSR water filter. This is, again, really just a backpacking thing. I like this pump style. I've had it for about 15 years. This is my second one, actually. My last one, I cracked the filter, so MSR sent me a whole new one. Good for, you know, loading up water while you're out on the trail. Just a backpacking pot, utensils, small stove that goes on the fuel, which I also have a jet boil, which this is great. This is a liter one, I believe. And so for warming up things at camp, this works really well. If you don't know how this works, leave a comment and I can send you a link. I've never heard of a jet boil, but fantastic backpacking and camping cooking utensil. Here's just a puffy jacket. I ended up not really needing it because I had 2 layers of camo on. Early season, now archery just opened September 1st. So we are starting to get into the season change, but it really changes at the end of September when archery goes out, which is a big shift in where the animals go, but always good to have extra jackets. It was around the mid 60s in the daytime, and probably mid 40s at night. I also took my hammock for hanging out at camp. This is a chair that my Thermarest sleeping pad goes into. I have a 1-person MSR Hubba tent. I've also had this about 15 years, fantastic. It is a 2-season tent, so it's mostly mesh. So if you are getting into the colder months, you probably want to take something else. And again, this is a backpacking design trip for where we were hiking in and leaving the truck. Extra gloves that are not my hunting stuff, a rain jacket, and then I have this inflatable pillow from Wilderness Technology, which is pretty sweet. Folds up, and there's a case for it somewhere in my truck that I don't know where it's at. And then here's just a couple extra backpacking meals that I had left over. I like these Mountain House meals. They're pretty great. These are my 2 favorite flavors, which is why I still have these. That's normally what I buy: biscuits and gravy for the morning, chili mac in the midday, and then we try to pack in some food to cook at night. This is a 40-liter pack. It held all of this stuff and more. Pretty sweet pack. I would definitely recommend taking something that's not bright orange for when you're hiking through. Obviously, you're probably going to walk up on animals more than they're going to come up behind you. So my straps were pretty much covered by having a jacket on. But again, this was a thrown together trip, so I'm just trying to show you how you can make it work. And that's what I did. This pack has a brain on it, which is where I keep that 10 Essentials kit. And it's my most important piece, license. For the most part out here, they're not going to come track you down in the woods to check your license, but you do need to have it on you at all times. And so when you do kill an animal, you cut off the carcass tag, and you have to have it with it at all times. And then by most of the time, if you're going to get checked, it's going to be at your truck. So anyway, this video was a little bit longer than what I was looking to do, but that's just a brief overview of the prep that I went into as far as gear goes for this archery hunt. If you do have any questions, comment. I can talk a little bit about archery from what I know. I can talk to you a little bit about hunting out here in the West. I am looking to go back and try to catch a bear before archery season is out. Archery season is out like September 30th. Then it transitions over into rifle. You can still get over-the-counter tags, so that's what this was out here. You, like I said before, you have to apply for a lottery tag. Most of the people are probably aware of that, or something, like it's something like that in your state for certain areas. So for South Carolina, lottery hunts are mostly for like the most coveted wildlife or waterfowl areas or deer hunting areas, or some of the WMAs and places like that. Whereas out here, it's mostly public. There are some lottery private land style hunts, but there are some private land style hunts that are a lottery. But this was an over-the-counter tag for both bear and for elk. And then there's over-the-counter rifle tags that you can get. And with those, there are specific units that you can go to, and there's specific times. So there's like 4 seasons. They might have changed it to 3. I think it's 4 seasons though. That are like a week apiece with like a week gap that go throughout the season. And so with those, you basically have to go to your area for that week, and you can scout prior to, and that gives you kind of the opportunity to try to catch the animals. But archery season will be the first time anybody's really in the woods minus scouting, which is normally the best to try to go opening week before everything gets kind of scattered. But at the same time, the more they get scattered, you might not see anything. If you go the first week of the season and then the last week of the season, they might be running through there depending on the weather and when everything with the rut happens. As you guys know, that could just be a free-for-all. So thank you guys for watching. The hunt video will be up next after this, I believe. And now I'm going to clean all this up and pack it back up for next year. Thank you guys for watching, and see you on the next one. Peace.